On November 19th, we're going to have our new moon in Scorpio, a lunation that births revelations at the heart of a Mercury retrograde cycle, reactivates grand water trines, opposes Uranus and Taurus, and brings circumstances that force discernment between true desired visions and illusions. Now, my friends, we've talked about this new moon a few times already here on the channel. I pretty much mentioned it, I think, in every single video that I've made since my dedicated Mercury retrograde video. And the reason for this is because we are going to have a massive Mercury retrograde cazimi at the time of this new moon. This new moon will be happening at 28 degrees Scorpio. This will fall in the third decan, a decan that is ruled by Venus. Venus is currently transiting in Scorpio during the time of this lunation. And to me, this is very special. This is very significant for a lot of reasons. And of course, I always want you to examine the Scorpio whole sign house in your birth chart. What is that theme of life? And how has this Venus and Scorpio transit been affecting you? Now, the Venus transit has nothing to do with the decan specifically, but it's just interesting how we're having a double blast of the Venusian involved in this particular birthing, this seeding moment in the scorpionic part of our lives, which is all about the intensity of transformation, things that are very deep and emotional there, things that can be very powerful and intuitive. We can talk about the depths of emotional intimacy with Scorpio. So depending on what theme of life that is for you, depending on what placements you have, especially in the late degrees of Scorpio, where this new moon, Mercury retrograde cazimi, will occur, will tell the story of what is going to be birthed or even revealed to a degree, because I feel the Mercury retrograde is churning up the inner stuff that we are going through, whatever that story is. And during any cazimi, especially Mercury cazimis, we are dealing with the purification of the planet and the karma it has been accumulating. So to me, cazimis are revelations, they are enlightenments, clarifications. And this new moon is an opportunity for a new beginning, for a new understanding, for truth and secrets and the depth of emotions to show themselves so we can examine them fully, so we can know the truth of them. Which is why I've been saying this is the heart of the cycle, because Mercury's descent into the underworld as it retrogrades back into Scorpio is this new moon's renewal. And it's the alchemical midpoint of truth, shadow, and rebirth all at once. In the collective, which we will talk about just a little bit, or maybe a lot, I don't know, probably not a lot, because I know I need to balance the politics. And, but again, I know how you guys love when I dive into the mundane astrology. And of course, also, as you know, if you watch my recent video, I am more than happy to dive into that. But in the collective, we are discussing about things coming back from the past that can be Venusian in nature, that can be very emotionally intimate in nature, whether for positive or negative. We could talk about the depths of secrets and things that have been hidden for quite some time that are now beginning to reveal themselves or pick up steam in a really, really big way. And spoiler alert, this has a lot to do with the Epstein stuff. It's actually quite miraculous how specific this Mercury retrograde cycle and the buildup to the new moon in Scorpio is revealing a lot of that. And I've been saying this for weeks, by the way. I don't know who's been tracking with me here, but I've been saying And even in the November forecast, I've been saying that third decan of ruled by Venus classically in the ancient texts of astrological magic, like the Picatrix, looking at that third decan of Scorpio, we are dealing with very lewd, promiscuous, erotic, and very sexual, assaulty in nature type of images. You know, there was a very powerful promiscuousness and even a rage and a violence, a violation, if you will, nature to that decan. Just one dimension of it, because like as we evolve in time, we can just look at this as like, oh wow, this could be more of a desirous type of decan, where things of desire and can come into focus, right? So whatever that desire is, our deepest desires, what are we desiring? And that Scorpio part of our life might reveal something of that nature, or something that we are intertwined with that could be love oriented maybe. But when it comes to that collective story, and we look at some of the ancient images from the Picatrix, then we look at what's going on right now during this heart of the Mercury retrograde cycle. And as this is building up to a new moon, and things are just getting stronger and stronger in that particular collective event, I could only assume and forecast the potential in a very big way that can just become more and more of a force of reckoning. And where does this lead? Nobody knows. But we're also going to have an opposition to Uranus and Taurus for this new moon. And also grand water trines will be reactivated. Now, I don't really have much to say on the grand water trines, to be honest, aside from the fact that my emotions have been all over the place. And I've been just feeling very, very deeply so many things in my life, just so many things, so much that I can't get into it, of course. But my ascendant degree is 29 degrees Scorpio. So like I made a joke in my Mercury retrograde video, I really wanted to incarnate here, not as a Sagittarius rising, but as a Scorpio rising. And that comes with its own bag of traumas, life experiences, and just the way I interact with the world that ultimately may make me feel a little bit like the way I've been feeling involving these grand water trines. But again, that grand one trines go into Jupiter, which is freshly retrograde in Cancer, and then Neptune and Saturn are at the end of Pisces. So again, if you want to examine those two parts of your life as well with this new moon, how is that being aspected? Like what is maybe assisting in the birthing, the new beginning, this revelation? How is this working with your Mercury retrograde story? What have you been reviewing and reflecting and reworking? Have you been doing anything to rejuvenate the mind? Because sometimes retrogrades are just really all about resting, rejuvenating, taking that minute to kind of go over things that have been happening. You know, like in my life, there's parts of my life that have slowed down. I'm trying to consciously do more Zazen meditation. You know, I practice Buddhist Zazen meditation. That's kind of my meditation practice. But as you all know, I also do a lot of astrological magic and, you know, work with the tarot on a very personal level. And understanding just the nature of my spiritual life, coming back into focus, slowing down, making sure I'm diligent and disciplined with all of that has been helping. So the grand water trines, I think, have been just feeding this desire, or not desire, but this need for me to get more in tune with why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling about things, and to do whatever I can to heal and to accept, you know, in those particular parts of my life, you know. And again, I'm not going to get into it. And then, yes, there is a tarot card, of course, that rules this decan, and we'll talk about that in a moment, because that also very much ties in to things we can contemplate and things we can look out for on the world stage, of course, things we can examine within our own life And the tarot card definitely plays hand in hand with this Venusian quality to the third decan of Scorpio. Now, when a new moon occurs in Scorpio, it always signals emotional depth and rebirth. So there's always an emphasis on rebirth with Scorpio. This is also happening close to the Anaretic degree. So again, we've been having a consistent chain of Anaretic degree new moons happening at 28, 29 degrees. And that all started with the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo at the end of September. And as we've been hitting every month thus far, we've been having these 28 degree, 29 degree new moons. And then to me, the Anaretic degrees, really it's the 29th degree. That's what the Anaretic degree is. But I mean, 28 to 29, it's right there, guys. It's right there. When a planet travels to the end of that sign, it is throughout the entire journey of that planet through that zodiac sign, it accumulated karma. It accumulated karma. The sun has been traveling all the way through Scorpio, all the way through all the signs prior to the Scorpio new moon. And meaning the last two new moons the sun has gotten to a place where it's the end of the zodiac sign to have a new moon birthing beginning. But again, because we're dealing with the end of the zodiac sign itself, we are dealing with a conclusion of experience that planet has churned up the waters in. So to me, there's these moments of endings and beginnings. And I keep telling everybody, it's like, I feel like we've been just having these like mini solar eclipses every single month, and it's not going to stop. I mean, we're going to have a solar eclipse in Aquarius at the end of February, right after Saturn and Aries get back, or Saturn and Neptune get back into Pisces, which is going to be massive. And I'm going to start talking about that. And I hope to bring on another guest soon. Actually, I'm talking to a few people to maybe get on the podcast again, or the show here, whatever we want to call this channel, and to talk specifically about the new eclipse cycles, or the new eclipse cycle that's going to be coming next year. But that first solar eclipse in Aquarius is happening at the end of February, and that's also going to be at 28 degrees. So we're going to consistently, until then at least, have these Anaretic degree new moons, which are these endings and beginnings, because we're concluding stories, we're concluding experiences, whatever that whole sign house theme of life is for you. These new moons are giving us an opportunity to release, to purge, to end, and to renew. And Scorpio, this is going to be the most intense new moon in Scorpio that I think we've had in a very long time. Which is not something I'm saying to scare you. This can actually be a really good thing. As much as I may feel more emotional, and who knows what else I'm going to feel. I mean, I haven't been really sleeping that well. I'm recording this in the morning, really early in the morning. So I'm kind of just existing within this space that I'm kind of enjoying as well, because I'm the kind of guy that likes to get solitude. I like my alone time. I like to get in touch with the truth of who I am and what matters to me. And this 29 degree ascendant of mine is going to, I could already feel this death and rebirth constantly. It's just like pulsing. And there's things that are coming up from the depths of my soul, dare I say that, where there's a communication opening up. There are secrets within me, things that I haven't acknowledged, things that I have not maybe faced in a long time. And I'm thinking about them, and I am wondering how that is going to shape who I am as a man, how I am as an astrologer, my identity at its core. So this Mercury retrograde, though, this is also very important because, again, we have to understand that cycle started at the new moon in Libra, okay? At 20 degrees Scorpio, Mars and Mercury had a conjunction. That started a pre-shadow, October 21st. Then Mercury got to 6 degrees Sagittarius, so the Sagittarius whole sign house got activated. Mercury and Mars, again, had another conjunction recently, a day ago at the time of recording this video on November 13th. And that's what activated the Epstein stuff, by the way. I mean, just yesterday on November 12th, we are talking about activating those emails that came out. And who knows what else is going to happen by the time you see this video. But we're dealing with this Mercury retrograde story, emails from the past, things coming up right now in that story's case. And then we're retrograding all the way back now to Scorpio. So again, the Sagittarius story, the Scorpio story, there's probably two different stories happening, two different themes of life, two different circumstances and karma that had been building up there. The Mercury retrograde in the early degrees of Sagittarius has activated a different story, but also whatever these later degrees of Scorpio mean. So this conjunction with the new moon is going to be kind of like this Horcrux, not to drop a Harry Potter, how do you say, Harry Potter example, even though I'm very glad I just dropped a Harry Potter example. Yeah, this is going to be the heart of something very revealing and something that could be very awakening and enlightening, and how it can maybe clear up the air and reveal things in the biggest of ways for ourselves and, of course, for the world, So I think that's what I want to say. I feel like I'm rambling on now. Now, this new moon to me, the symbolic threshold of this, listen to this, guys. From silence to speech, from hidden to revealed, from underworld to revelation. This, my friends, if you want to chant that, say that to yourself, see what comes of it when you utter those words. And as far as astrological magic, I mean, we don't do astrological magic under lunar phases, in my opinion, because they're just a little bit too unstable, in my opinion. And unless there's some really harmonious aspects happening in the sky where you want to make a talisman of some kind, even though I don't agree with making talismans for full moons and new moons. I don't. I think they're beautiful for rituals of visualization, just any other kind of ritual, but nothing invoking the energies of the lunations into the object itself. Maybe cleansing objects and stuff, but not so much creating them to harness the energy. And I think this one's a little bit too potent and powerful, and it's a retrograde cycle. So definitely stay away from talismans making. But utter those words. Use these words, from silence to speech, from hidden to revealed, from underworld to revelation. Because that's exactly what this new moon cycle, I think, is going to provide all of us. Now, the alchemy of the 28th degree of Scorpio. We're talking about the 28th degree, like I said, the tail of the scorpion, where poison becomes medicine. At this degree, emotional intensity peaks, purging what cannot be carried into the next cycle, because Mercury eventually, in a normal transit, will make its way into the next zodiac sign. So these late degrees of Scorpio, again, are the most intense, I would argue, of the entire zodiac itself. Okay? And because we're dealing with this third decan, ruled by Venus, we're dealing with the intensity of desire and attraction that we need to understand very, very deeply, so we can understand what is true desire and what is illusion. Okay? And before I continue, I would just like to say, because I want to talk about the tarot card now. If you're enjoying this video and like to subscribe, my friends, this is my little shameless plug. Please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, commenting. All that stuff really helps. Let me know your story, what's happening with you right now during this cycle. And again, if you would like to learn anything about me, sign up for my mini course on the Decans and Minor Arcana, mind you. You can click links down below. You can read all about that stuff. And I would love to see you in class, and I would love to meet you if you would like to start booking readings for December, because I believe I'm sold out now for November. But The last decan, guys, Venus, desire. Desire can breed illusion and fantasy. Desire can really bring us into the depths of the underworld. It really can. And when we deal with Venus in Scorpio, we are dealing with a Venus that is in exile, even though the last decan of Venus has nothing to do with the rulership or the exile, exaltation type of scheme, right? But Venus is transiting in Scorpio. So Venus is in exile. That is the energy in the collective. That is the energy in the air. So the amplification of a Venus in Scorpio energy, which again is bringing us into a realm of desire that is unlike Venus in Libra desire, or Venus in Taurus desire, or Venus somewhere else desire. This is the scorpionic, the depth and intensity of our emotions. This can be promiscuous in nature. This can be, what are we attracting ourselves to? Why are we attracting ourselves to what? What is in our life that is desirous? Maybe there's something involving love. Maybe there is something involving connection, or something that can be a little promiscuous, or if maybe there's a desire element going on in your life that you have to double check and question some things maybe. The tarot card associated with this decan is the Seven of Cups, the Lord of Illusions and Delusions, as the Golden Dawn suggests. We are dealing with a figure before 7 floating cups, and there are things popping out of it, right? Filled with alluring visions, jewels, a wreath, a dragon, a veiled figure. Now, this provides us a symbol of the element of choice. We have choices to weed through. We have decisions to make. We have to understand the deeper nature of things in our life that could include choices. The difference between illusions and fantasies, and what is real and what is not real. So this new moon can open the gate to new visions, but it requires discernment, and for us to really get sharp on what we desire and what is desire. And of course, what is in harmony and what is not in harmony. What do we actually need, you know? Are we doing things? Are we participating in things? Are we entangled in something in the Scorpio part of your life that is there for the reasons they should be there? Should you be involved in certain things for the reasons that you should? Or because you feel attached in a way where you would maybe feel lost, alone, and emotionally depleted, scared, full of fear if you left, or if you were not a part of that anymore? Because with Scorpio, we need to get real with transformation intensity and the power of transformation. And sometimes band-aids need to be ripped off. Sometimes we need to get very honest with ourselves. And through this honesty, we can get very intuitive, and we can start to understand the deeper truth of things, which is where this decan can really show us this new revelation of new vision. And this new moon with Mercury retrograde can very much clear the mind and clear the psyche or whatever, and purify the heart of the retrograde cycle as well. So again, there's so much going on with the retrograde cycle, the Scorpio part of your life. Examining that third decan, the Seven of Cups energy, how is this going to play into the story of this birthing? I can examine a lot of things in my life and I go, wow, this is one aspect of it. One really big aspect of it. Which is why taking my decans course would be so powerful for all of you who are interested in this, because as you know on the channel here, I constantly observe the new moons and full moons, and we talk about the decans, we talk about the tarot symbolism. And in my course, which you can pre-order now at a discounted price until November 30th, then it's going to go up a little bit in price, launching January 4th, where I detail every decan, the history of the decans, every tarot card association with them. Because when we look at these new moon cycles, these full moon cycles, I'm telling you, since I've been an avid decan observer with the moons, they are right on the money. They reveal what they say in one way, shape, or form. Now, on the collective level, guys, I mean, honestly, I can riff forever on so many things maybe going on in the world involving this energy. But the biggest thing that, in my opinion, that is going on, at least at the moment I'm recording this, is the Epstein stuff. And I've been saying this for weeks and weeks and weeks, that there's no way that a Venus-ruled Decan with a new moon in Scorpio, a Mercury retrograde cycle, Mars-Mercury conjunctions, not only that started the pre-shadow of that Mercury retrograde cycle, but also the second day into the Mercury retrograde itself, we had that other conjunction with Mars and Sagittarius. Boom, the Epstein emails come out. Who knows where this story is leading? I'm recording this literally the morning after all of that. And then we have this new moon in Scorpio coming in a week. And the Venus ruled Decan, okay? And those classical Decan images, which are really gruesome, involving the brutality of women and women actually also being brutal as well. So it's a double. The people from the Renaissance and medieval era were crazy. But again, this emphasis on the feminine energy being brutalized, or the brutality of what the feminine can manifest. But also this really dark nature of desire. And that's kind of like maybe more of the flavor I'm trying to say right now. So that's really important to note. And of course, I don't want to trigger anybody out there, but this is just part of the education, my friends, of the history of this particular Decan itself, which can be just very helpful for understanding the time we live in. And then we have Venus in Scorpio, okay, which is something else I said in my November forecast. I said when Venus enters Scorpio, there could be a woman that kind of comes to the forefront in a very Scorpionic way that plays a role, not necessarily in the Epstein stuff, but just plays a role in this Scorpionic revelation, purging the transformation, the bringing to the surface of secrets in the depths of deception. And the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson in America, just sworn in that new representative, that new congresswoman, I believe. And she's like the last signature they needed to really get like the bill or that whatever, the Epstein thing to go to the House floor, which there will be a vote now or something that's going to happen in early December. And that's when Mercury will be going direct again. So I'm really curious to know when that's going to happen, because she signed the signature, feminine figure in Scorpio, Venus is in Scorpio, Venus ruled Decan. And I just heard something about the early part of December where this will now have a chance to be revealed or something like that. Or there will be a bigger vote on it. And because there's enough signatures, I think they will be able to do it. So, and that's when Mercury will be going direct. So this is really interesting on how we're tracking Venus energy. We're looking at that third decan of Scorpio, looking at its themes, looking at the Seven of Cups tarot, looking at this card of choices and illusion and fantasy, the fantasies of men from the past, picking and choosing their desires, you know? So again, I can like weave in and out of all of the different scenarios that this new moon, the Mercury retrograde, birthing, revelation, could bring. You know, the truth from what's underneath the story can no longer be denied. That's something I have in my notes here, just generally for ourselves as well. You know, that old fears and fixations return to the surface. Old fears of who? Leaders, people that are in power, maybe, that don't want this to get out, right? And then examine your life. What old fears and fixations are going to come to the surface for us to see clearly for the very first time? I know I have some. Major disclosures or investigations surfacing Scorpio themes of secrecy and power. Pluto rules Scorpio in modern astrology. Mars rules Scorpio in ancient astrology. Powerful figures being in focus. The secrets, the disclosures and investigations of that happening right now as we speak. The truth can no longer be buried. Okay? in our own life. Okay, I have a few personal things to end on here. Old fears, and fixations resurface for final release. A truth long buried in the unconscious begins to articulate itself. Okay, this also brings itself into the Mercury retrograde story, churning up, right? The information, the stuff in the mind, the communications within ourselves, and maybe with whatever we're dealing with, right? There is an initiation into deeper self-honesty the moment the shadow speaks. Clarity may not come as intellectual understanding, but as a visceral knowing. So that's also true for some of us. We have to very much be in tune with our intuitive knowing right now. So ask yourself, my friends, what truth has been whispering beneath the noise of your thoughts? What am I now willing to see or say that I once buried? Where has illusion, glamour, fantasy, entanglements, desirous thoughts, illusions, projections, obscured what is actually real? So where has all that obscured the truth, the reality? Because it's time to get clear on that. So this really is a new moon that sparks the moment when the underworld speaks, my friends. Okay? In the Epstein's case, or whatever else comes out in the world stage, we're talking about the underworld, the darkness coming to the surface. This could ruin Trump. This could be the end. There's a lot of people saying that the Epstein thing that has not been going away, this could be literally the end of the end. Possibly. And then again, I really can't wait to talk more about the solar eclipse in Aquarius coming at the end of February. And as we begin the eclipse cycle of Aquarius and Leo starting next year, but it starts at the end of February, my friends, because again, Pluto is in Aquarius. Again, the death and rebirth cycle of the collective, period, full stop. And what does the new future actually look like? And then Leo, we're talking about leaders, charismatic leaders falling and rising. So personally, I don't see how Trump survives, whether by health or by the removal of some shit. Not predicting anything, but what I'm saying is this astrology is too thick. This Scorpio new moon really does spark something massive that can be undeniable. And in our own life, the Scorpio part of our life, my friends, is so activated right now. And if any of you would like to navigate this post the new moon, post November, I would highly suggest gifting yourself for the holidays a reading with me or something, because all these readings I've been doing lately have been spot on, crazy. Like all my clients are blowing my mind as well, just with their life stories. And it's been just brilliant to, guide you through what I see intuitively and through the astrology. And this Scorpio new moon is going to plant a massive seed that is also going to bring up and enlighten, and the heart of the cycle being this Mercury retrograde story. This is also huge. And the post shadow happens through halfway through December. So the integration phase of the retrograde doesn't even stop until December 15th, I believe. So the energies of this Epstein story, of our stories, the integration of it all, the reality, the smoothing of the wrinkles, the integration does not end until December. And I would argue it doesn't end until we really understand the depths of the truth of it all. So that being said, I'm going to end this video here, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the description box if you would like to book a reading with me. My website is super easy to navigate, super easy to book yourself a reading. Consider taking my course starting January 4th. It's a self-paced course. You purchase it January 4th. You'll get access to the entire course. It's about 8 hours worth of material. Then for 5 weeks in a row, I will be hosting live streams exclusively with my students. And there's a whole portal, a specific separate teaching portal that you access and become a member of. And there will also be a community area once the course launches, where it kind of is like a little social media platform in itself, kind of like a Facebook or something, where you guys can literally post and talk to each other, even when I'm not around. So you guys can make friends, and that's awesome. And all of my mini courses and stuff to come on this particular portal, there'll be like this massive community thing. So I'm really stoked to build this teaching portal platform. So yeah, if you want to learn more about the Decans course and the Minor Arcana course, they are infused together. Check out the links down below, my friends. All right, until next time.